court not supposed to be used, they can take on the financial responsibility. They've got bonds, which there again, we'll jump back here for a second. We are going to figure out a way to contact, remember this name. So everybody lock this in your brain. Risk management. Risk management. The people in the government that you deal with will deny this place exists. Risk management is in charge of everything and everybody. Everybody that works for the government has some kind of a bond that is operated and controlled by risk management. In most cases, they get 3 hits on their bond, they cannot be in that employment anymore. I don't care if it's a cop, I don't care if it's a judge, I don't care if it's a prosecutor, I don't care if it's a governor. They get 3 hits on their bond, they're not bonded, they can't be in that position anymore. So we're going to figure out a way to hit risk management for the notary's bond and the Secretary of State's bond for not pulling everything. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. Risk management is very powerful. It's the insurance companies that own the government that say you can't do this. So once that gets pulled and they're not making money off it, they're toast. So back down here on the fiduciary concept, when we appoint the judge as co-fiduciary with the attorneys, they have an issue. They can't deny that position because they've been appointed that. Now they've got to back themselves out of this. I've gotten rid of a judge on a murder case over it. So there's parts of this concept work. We're going to have another seminar. It'll be Labor Day weekend, like it was right around the beginning of September. It'll be 2, it may be 3 days. It'll be in Scottsdale. Yeah, it's 3 days. Okay, looks like it's going to be a 3-day seminar. Be in Scottsdale. It's going to be around $300. The first one and the only one we've had, about 80 people showed up. And I'll tell you guys, at the end of it, I asked what everybody thought, everybody liked it, and I asked, because the response was so good, I finally said, how many people thought this was the best seminar they'd ever been to in their life? And everybody said it was. So it was pretty intense. It went over well, except for Monroe. He said he had been to one that was better. He just didn't remember when. That would be Monroe. But it went over great. We got a lot of stuff covered. And I got hit up so much after that from people that had been in the seminar that had written up their own documents and just incredible stuff. They paid attention, they took notes, and were doing their own pleadings and writing their own letters to the bank. That's where we went into the whole concept of writing a nice thank you letter to the bank, because they're the ones that discharge the obligation of the obligor by stamping the promissory note. You know, if you got a promissory note out there for $500,000 and the bank discharges you from it, you think you ought to write them a thank you letter?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I would. And if you do it and they don't respond, what have they just agreed to? Yes, and you can put that in court. Just like they put these nasty letters they write to us saying we owe them money and we don't respond and we're shafted, do the same thing to them. It's fair game. So you'll contact Mike to sign up for the seminar through the Mortgage Challenge, the Yahoo website, or irsfight.com.
irsfight@yahoo.com.
What's that?
irsfight@yahoo.com.
irsfight@yahoo.com. Yeah.
Do you want to explain for the new people that are here why, you know, you write the letter and what they did?
Okay, when you in business, what we call commerce, and I'm hesitant to use the words that the Patriot groups use because they use them incorrectly and they're wrong. They're just wrong. Their stuff doesn't work because it can't work. But it is commerce. In commerce, if we state a claim and have proof of a claim, and we correspond with the other party, and we go through a process, what is known as an administrative process, but is not explained correctly through all of this Patriot stuff, that it's evidence of agreement. Now, there's a lot of different kinds of agreements. There's a lot of concepts in agreement. One of them is called acquiescence. In other words, if I say, you agreed to pay me $1,000, and you don't say anything, and then I send you a letter, and you don't say anything, and then I send a demand, and you don't say, if you never respond, then under law, you have agreed. It's called acquiescence, or agreement by acquiescence. Those cases are USA v. Tweel, Connolly versus General Accounting. There's a few other ones, very good cases that explain it quite well, that when somebody says you did something, you didn't do something, you owe something, you bought something, blah, 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 you must, in commerce, respond, or you're agreeing to what they've claimed. That's just fundamental law. That's contract law, that's business law, that's UCC. You can read Bloom on Contracts, I think it was 1880 something, 1882 or something, which is a foundation of what we use for contract law in the U.S. now. It's something everybody should read. It'll give you a good foundation of how to operate in contract law, in court and contract law. So, but for now, we'll go ahead and take a break. It's, want everybody knows where the bathroom is. I'm going to step outside for a couple of minutes. And, oh, you know what? Let me go over something real quick before we take a break. This is just something that I was going through on the internet. I want to give you some stats of what has happened because of this whole banking thing. Okay. 83% of all U.S. stocks are in the hands of 1% of the people. How many people knew that? 83% of all U.S. stocks are owned by 1% of the population now. Actually, the government is the single largest holder of all stocks in the U.S. 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 61%, guys. Now, that was 49% in 08 and 43% in 07, and before that it was substantially lower. 66% of the growth income between 01 and 07 went to the top 1%. In other words, the top 1% of this country were getting richer as the other 99% were getting poorer over the last 10 years. Did you know that? Yeah, believe in it? No, it's two different things. 36% of Americans are unable to contribute anything to their retirement. 43% of Americans have less than $10,000 saved up for their retirement. Now, when you do the math on that with the population changes and the booms and that sort of thing, within the next few years, you know, with the retirement coming up of so many people, you're going to have about 30% of Americans paying for the other 70%. That's bad math. In 09, 1.4 million Americans filed for bankruptcy. That was a 32% increase over 08. Since 1975, only the top 5% have made money quicker than inflation. Now, this is what's sick. This is the cause of everything, too. Don't know why I've got it in this order. Should have been either first or last. For the first time in the history of this country, banks own a greater share of residential property in the U.S. than all of the people put together. Do you understand that? The banks now own over half the homes in the United States. Is that for you?
Yes.
That's why we love Andrew Jackson, we do. Him and his Horsehair Rose. In 1950, the average CEO of a company made 30 times, a ratio of 30 to 1, what the average paid employee of that company was making. So a lot of countries have limits on that. I think Japan's 12 to 1. Exclusive, of course, of like stock and stuff. You know what the average CEO makes compared to the average worker of that company now?
1,000.
300 to 500 times. 300 to 500 times.
Get your little flags out and wave it, you know. It's America. Good, good.
USA.
Yeah.
US.
The bottom 80% of American households own 7% of the liquid assets. Think about that. 80% of this country owns 7%. The other 20% own 93%. The top 1% holding almost all of that. The bottom 50% of Americans, collectively, you take the bottom half, you add up everything that they own together, what percentage of this country's wealth do you think they own? Collectively, all combined, what percentage do you think that is?
4%. Less than 10. 1.
Less than 1. Less than 1%. You take half of the legal population of this country and combine all of their wealth, and you don't even get 1%.
And now the Federal Reserve has more control and more power.
That's what it's all about. When they get your property rights, what is a right? It's property. When they get your property rights, what do they get?
Your rights.
All of them. All of them. All right, guys, let's take a break. We'll be back now at, let's say 1:10.